everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today on the Morrison Report, we're going to be speaking with Travis Comstock. He is a real estate agent with Remax Costa Rica. Hi, Travis. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Thank you for having
Hi.
me on again. Good seeing you. Happy Friday.
Good seeing. Yeah, good seeing you too. So, talk to us a little bit about. Well, first of all, why don't we describe for people where is Costa Rica? Because some people just don't know.
Yep, no, exactly. It is in Central America. It's got two major waterways, oceans. On the west side would be the Pacific Ocean, and on the east side would be the Caribbean Ocean. And then we border two other countries, Panama to the south and Nicaragua to the north. So kind of just tucked in there right between the two, Panama and Nicaragua. So it's Central America. A lot of people think it's sometimes an island or it's South America, but it is definitely central according to our license plates.
Okay, sounds good. And just another question now that I'm thinking about it, because I think it might be on people's minds, is recently the turmoil that happened in Mexico.
Uh-huh.
So, talk to me about the safety of Costa Rica.
It's safe where we live. We feel safe walking around. The one thing I noticed, if something bad happens and it's 4 hours away, you hear about it because you just don't have that many, significant, real tourist problems. Petty theft is something that you have to really watch out for. I hate that word because once your passport's stolen and your jewelry, it doesn't feel like it's petty, but at the same time, it's opportunistic crime. But really, you've never heard or you never hear of like a mass shooting in Costa Rica or a school getting shot up. So, I mean, in terms of safety, it's there. It was interesting because I was just in Mexico about 3 weeks ago and we were in the
Yeah.
Baja California Sur, the Los Cabos area, and talking to all the agents there from all the different brokerage, that they're extremely safe, they say, because they're on that peninsula. So it's
Yeah.
somewhat guarded. So it was interesting because we were talking about the same thing, kind of comparing safety. And now one of the biggest topics, though, in the new election, and something they're going to really try to crack down on using different models from other Central American countries, is the amount of drugs coming in and what happens with the prisoners once they go to jail, really making them jailed and not running, organized ring inside the jail. So you're seeing
Yeah.
that a lot. Fortunately and unfortunately, a lot of it's on the other side of the Central Pacific where we live. It's more on the Limon where there's a big port there. So it's got its problems. I'll say that, but certainly in terms of safety, it doesn't feel like, we're unsafe after 3 years.
Beautiful. And I mean, I think any country can suffer from opportunistic petty theft
100%.
as well.
We're
I think,
we
I
come
think
down and
that's
it
a,
looks like we have dollar signs on our head and, they think we're all rich and compared to the way they grew up. I mean, quite frankly, we are. So yeah, if you flaunt it, they're going to see it and they're going to take it. So be careful.
yeah, that's very true. It's funny, total segue, but I'd gone away to India one time. And yeah, I felt like everyone I spoke to there looked at me like a dollar sign.
Hmm.
And I sort of resented them looking at me that way. But then, I think I got back home to Toronto and I thought, you know what? They're right.
Different life. Yeah.
Like compared to the way they live, compared to the way I live, no
Yep.
wonder they look at me that way. And there's really nothing I can do to change my appearance so that they don't
No.
think that about me.
I mean, I got freckles. Like I stand out like a like a sore thumb. So no, and it's hard because we come here and you want to kind of live your North American standards. It's not saying you have to live lavishly, but if we're going to get a car, we're going to get a car. It's going to be a new car, primarily because old cars are expensive.
Right.
And then just like just having fun, like sports utility vehicle or a four wheeler or a quad. It's so you try not to look like too much of an outsider expat, but yeah, it can be hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what area do you focus on in your while you're working as
Mainly
an agent there?
Hako Beach, which is in the Central Pacific zone. Just to the south of us, though, is called Hermosa Beach, and that's like world famous surfing. So a lot of people, let's say from California, who go travel the world and surf, will a lot of times land in Hermosa, and believe it or not, a lot of them stay, buy property there, and still live there and surf that beach every day. And
Mm,
just to the north of us is a pretty popular destination called Los Sueños. It's a Marriott and resort. Yeah, it's a resort. It's a resort and a marina with a Marriott connected to it.
Okay.
Home to some of the greatest deep sea fishing you could ever imagine. The golf course is real nice, so it's an interesting area. You have a real chill beach town. You have Jaco, which is your nightlife, your bars, your clubs, your restaurants, and then you have your Los Sueños Marina up above, which is kind of more upscale, kind of a different upper class type of vibe there.
Hmm. It's funny. There's a new TV show here. It's called Tropic Like It's Hot. And I think it's like on HGTV. And it basically each week features a different either couple or pair of friends or single or whomever. And they're basically looking at real estate in a hot weather destination.
Okay,
And that destination could be Tulum, but I've also seen them do Costa Rica as well too, quite a
nice.
few times.
Yep.
Whereas people are relocating, they're usually Americans relocating to Costa Rica for either a primary residence or maybe it's a secondary residence. So, yeah, it's an interesting show, and it's certainly let me see more what the real estate looks like in Costa Rica, which has been really interesting for sure.
Yeah, no, very affordable. I mean, there's areas in Guanacaste. We don't live there, but we have access there. It's about 3.5, 4 hours away. The Papagayo Peninsula. I mean, that's where your Ritz-Carlton, your Four Seasons. I mean, you're seeing a lot more money coming into Costa Rica, which is
Mm.
driving prices up a little bit. But I have clients that will come from California, Denver, Atlanta, New York, and they just laugh at some of the prices compared to what they've seen. And the real estate taxes, I can't talk about that enough, but 0.25% of the purchase price or the appraised value. So for every $400,000 you're spending on a condo, land, or a house, that's $1,000 a year property tax, which in the States,
Wow.
like, a fraction of what that would be on an annual payment. So holding costs are low. And if you can rent it, if it's a good, unique rental and you have low holding costs, you can put money in your pocket. A lot of times the name of the
Right.
game is just to cover your expenses, and that's fine. But if there's a way to get 3, 4, 5% return on your investment, then let's do it.
Perfect. That's great. So talk to me a little bit about, who is going to Costa Rica to either to buy places, whether it's for their secondary home, primary
Yeah.
homes, or maybe it's an Airbnb short-term rental. You mentioned a couple of places, Denver, New York. Like, are you getting Canadians? Who is coming into Costa Rica to buy property?
Yeah, so the it's interesting because tourism was down last year, 2025. With a lot of the turmoil that's still there, quite frankly. So we thought it was going to be a really bad year for tourism and real estate. For me personally, it wasn't great for real estate. I know other people had some success. However, tourism picked back up in December to the point where it was almost what it was the year prior. So we kind of
Mm,
gained a lot of momentum. This year it's looking like it's record breaking tourism coming to Costa Rica. But the most amazing stat I just heard was it's the amount of United States citizens coming into Costa Rica is down. It's now Europeans that are number one kind of coming over and Canadians.
mm,
And what people are mainly buying is secondary properties. And then I'll split it from there, kind of two branches. One is a lifestyle investment where they're not afraid to get some financing in order to put them in a nicer property that they want to call home. They want to be proud of it. They want their parents to come, their family to come. They want to make memories there. And then there's the strictly short term, as you mentioned, Airbnb, where the people are going to maybe use it a little bit, but the main goal is just to ride that equity wave and to also put money back in the pocket to cover those low taxes, HOA, and the utility bills, property manager, etc. So it's
mm.
really a lot of secondary homes. I do work with people that are selling it all. They're sick of it. They're done. A lot of angry Canadians who used to live in Florida that don't like it anymore.
Yeah.
So there are people that are just done with where they live, and that's both Canada and United States, and they'll sell everything off. But for the most part, I feel like you get a lot of 1 month here, 1 month there. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's healthcare or whatnot, but the Canadians come down about 6 months out of the year and then go back for 6 months. I know that's weather related, obviously, but I don't know. I don't want to get in over my head. But I was told if Canadians are out of the country too long, the healthcare can be surrendered or.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. We have free healthcare and people want to keep their healthcare free. And so, the government will only let you be out of town, out of the country for 6 months.
Okay.
So that's why a lot of retirees are, and, we have horrible, cold winter as well,
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So,
Nasty.
they structure those 6 months for when it's cold and then come back home when the weather's better. And that way they're also able to keep their health care. So yeah,
Gotcha.
that's absolutely a
Gotcha.
thing for a lot of Canadians. We don't want to pay for our health care.
No, no, 100%. And I think a lot of Canadians that come here are not afraid of the healthcare here. I mean, dental vacation is a huge thing. So a
Yeah.
lot of people are not afraid to get, healthcare here. And if it's expensive, then yeah, if they can get in and see a doctor in Canada, then great, go back. But I'm seeing the medical field really pick up here in terms of the quality of care and patients being able to go to both a private sector and a public sector. So it's,
Yeah, I would believe that. And it's funny, I feel like that's something I've been hearing with a lot of whether it's Central America or Caribbean countries is that the healthcare is fine. And if they have to pay for it, they're also fine because the healthcare isn't too expensive.
no,
So
exactly. I
they know
always
they can
say,
get decent care.
I always say I broke my foot at Halloween the first year we moved here and went in, got the x-ray, the physician consultation, the boot, and it was like $166. Like the x-ray would have been thousands in the States, it's so it is a different level of care. And knowing what I know and being in the medical field before real estate, like if anything major happened, I would probably jump a flight and go to Miami or Houston, just with the overall level of care that I'm comfortable with. But for
Right.
example,
Fair
I just
enough.
had a dental implant done for $3,000 and it's out the door. And I called my insurance to see what it would have been in the States, and on average about 5,200. So, and all the
Wow.
dentists here are pretty much US trained. They go to school there, or they go to courses. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah, no, I can just imagine that. Yeah, things are actually quite good for that. Definitely. So, talk to me a little bit about the short term rental aspect of it for investors who are looking to do that. Is there a lot of licensing and loopholes that people need to jump through to do short term rentals in your area?
No, it's extremely easy if you're buying the property titled, which is the way most people prefer it, and the way it's done in the States. You can rent it out ASAP, and that's the exact same thing with the concession sale, where you're leasing the land from the government. You have control of your house, but you have to get a concession to live there. But you can also get a concession to rent it out. So there's,
Mm,
and I get this question a lot: are there any restrictions? And there are not. And my theory is that would destroy the economy here. Everything is about tourism, and you have to have places for people to rest their heads when they're coming here. And a lot
right,
of times investors aren't buying a place where it's going to be risky to the point where they can't rent it out. Now they are applying
right,
a tax here that hotels have to pay as well. So that is something new that my clients need to factor into their overall, dollar once they have to pay the tax here, which is 13%.
right. And that's
Um,
pretty similar. I mean, in Toronto, in many different areas in Canada, we would pay a municipal accommodation tax called a MAT
yeah.
tax.
Yeah.
I happen to have a short term rental in Barbados, for example, and we pay something called SEL. So I think that no matter where you are, there is going to be a little bit of a something that's going to go over to the government, which is
And
fine.
there should be if it's used appropriately, which it's usually not. But no, before the biggest thing, and I guess it was a loophole, would be if you're Airbnb down here, but your money is going to the States, which most people is because it's going right to their bank account, then it never hits foreign territory in Costa Rica, so there's nothing to tax. So now I think they're working with Airbnb to kind of monitor which listings are there, so no one can get away with being able to avoid that tax. I think it's a
Right.
huge project ahead, but I think it's fair. Hotels have always had to pay it, and then they're going after the big boys, which I'll call that the big 5, 6, 7, 16 bedroom house for bachelor parties, large families. And now they're going after
Right.
just individual condo owners on and off the beach who are Airbnb. So it
Right.
should help pump more money into the economy for sure.
Yeah, the same thing is happening in Barbados as well too. They're trying to do that. So I think Airbnb has a lot of work on their
I
hands trying
know.
to
Well,
figure that out
it becomes a
with all
legal
these.
battle, like, because
Yeah,
Airbnb, they don't feel like they have to divulge who, the property owners are at each place, and that maybe not their business. And the government's like, hand it over if you want to work with us. If you want to have business in Costa Rica, you'll comply with what we want. So it'll be an interesting
absolutely.
battle.
Now, what I've seen in a lot of jurisdictions, though, is that there's a lot of people who are upset with the short term rental market because they feel that it's driving up the prices locally. It's taking away long term rentals from people. You don't have any of that kind of pushback in Costa Rica right now?
There is, but it's kind of it goes two ways. So a lot of people will say if you can get an Airbnb at a cheaper rate, you're going to spend more money when you're out at the restaurants, bars. So you're going to help that quite a bit. So that's
Yeah.
because, I mean, the more Airbnbs are, let's be honest, the prices are going down because, product A, B, C, and D and E are all exactly the same.
Yep.
The biggest thing I think people are realizing is I'm buying an Airbnb, I'm going to make money, I'm going to make 10% return on investment. Those days are gone, and I think they have been for a while. And if you can show me where you're buying and renting, getting 10% ROI, please let me know. But I just try to make sure it's a good property, it's rentable. I mean, if you want to get occupancy of, let's say, 250 nights a year, you better not buy 6 miles away up in the mountains. It may be beautiful,
Ah,
but you got to be realistic where you're at and what you're offering. A 5 bedroom villa on the beach absolutely crushes it here. It's going to be more expensive, but you're going to get a lot higher occupancy, and your average nightly rate's going to be way much higher. But back
right.
to the question, I think a lot of people are shocked that they're not going to make X amount. And if you can make two, three, four, five, that's good. And the most of what I see people wanting to do is just cover their expenses. And then they're happy with being able to use it themselves. But the
Got
amount
it.
of Airbnbs is on the rise. We live in a 3 mile stretch of a beach, which now has 2,300 condos on and off the beach. So you got to be competitive. You got to be unique if you're going to offer an Airbnb listing.
Makes sense. Talk to me a little bit about mortgages. You had mentioned people
Yeah.
are able to get mortgages there for their, secondary homes, vacation properties. So how does that work? Trying to get a
It's
mortgage there?
It's interesting, and it's the main point I want to talk about. There is a new company called Second Street Mortgage. They're out of the United States. The CEO was on Wall Street, responsible for millions and millions of investment. Saw an opportunity in Costa Rica because banks don't lend here. So if the foreign banks like Chase, Wells Fargo, they don't lend here like they used to before the crash of '08. So what happens is if you want to get lending, you have to go through a Costa Rican bank, and you have a better chance of winning the lottery than actually securing money from a Costa Rican bank. I mean, there's zero chance you're going to do it. I don't care what they say. So Zach, the CEO, found an opportunity in Costa Rica to offer mortgages and actually got funded from one of the Wall Street companies, who I believe is an equity holder in the company now. So they're servicing their own loans, and it's going really well. They can lend, and they only lend to U.S. citizens buying in Costa Rica. However,
Mm.
they just added Canada, so
Oh,
Canadians can now get mortgages as well. They're about 8.5% or 8.25 last time I checked, which if you compare that to what the States is at right now, it's a little bit higher. But on an
yeah.
international investment, it used to be 10 to 12%. And then every 3 years, it was going to jump. This is the first mortgage they offer that's a 30-year fixed, and you have the ability to finance down. So now what people
Wow.
are saying is, okay, I don't have to show up to Costa Rica with $400,000 or $300,000 and just use it all. I can get a loan from the bank, and then whatever money I use from a short-term rental, pay that back. So they just add that
Right.
cost into their expense. But there
Wow.
another company is called Volo Loans. Same thing. They offer mortgage style loans to Canadians and North Americans or U.S. citizens.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's funny though, when I listen to your mortgage rates, I'm like, oh,
I know it's
because at that price, I don't know how things. I mean, mortgages in the US work a little bit differently than the way they do in Canada.
mhm,
But I guess in my Canadian hat, I listen to that and I think, well, the person could just take a line of credit against their Canadian property.
correct.
And the interest rate on their line of credit is going to be maybe around 5%.
That's the easiest way to go. That's if you
Yeah.
want a surefire way, that's the way to go. I do think what people are finding is all that equity they thought they had in their house might not necessarily be there. So the amount that they wanted to pool isn't necessarily there. But as you
Right.
know, that fluctuates. When the market does well, the more equity, the more someone can pull out. But no, that's a surefire way. I'm not getting in over my head. I always set up calls with these companies so my clients can talk directly to understand it. But there are some tax disadvantages to doing a home equity line of credit, at least in the States. So
Oh,
sometimes
I
it's
see. Okay.
a strategy behind not using a HELOC and just using a straight up mortgage. But it's just a
And
game
I would,
changer now because, like I said, people don't have to show up with 100%, 100% of the purchase price in cash. It's
right.
completely different game.
And I would say for Canadians, there's no difference as to whether they got a mortgage or whether
Okay.
they did it in a HELOC out of their line of credit. They could still be able to write off some of the interest that
Something.
they're
Yep.
spending on that from Canadians. I mean, just a side note, when Canadians get mortgages, their mortgages, although they might have a 25-year or 30-year amortization, their mortgages only actually last for 3 to 5 years.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
every 3 to 5 years, you have to renew your mortgage with your lender. So you either have to shop yourself around or you just renew with the same lender. So that way they don't have to look at your finances again.
So
So
you can't fix a rate in, you can't lock it for more
not for
than
25 or
years.
30 years, no.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, I mean, therefore, yeah, we're subject to what's going on in the marketplace right now.
Correct.
So, I could either have a variable mortgage or a fixed rate mortgage. And
Okay.
so, let's say coming out of COVID, I guess in 2021 or so, the mortgage rate here was so low, it was around 2%. So, a lot of Canadians locked in. And then, of course, now a lot of those mortgages are coming due. And so a lot of people are sort of like, oh my God, my payments are
Yeah.
spiking up
Uh-oh.
because instead of rates being 2%, now they're around 4%, which again, in the long-term scheme of things,
Correct.
rates when I was growing up were, double digits. And so the 4% now that is freaking people out on
It's
a relative basis isn't really that bad.
historically low. No, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like kind of what you grew up in. I know my dad would take money in a CD and get that money and pay the mortgage, but it was like, 18% at the time. In
Right.
2001, we rebuilt in the States and I locked in at 2.75, which is unbelievable. And I guess the huge advantage I didn't realize is that's locked in for 30 years. So I couldn't afford to sell that house if I wanted to. It would be kind of stupid.
Yeah. So, and I mean, if you break your mortgage because you've got it locked for 30 years, is there a penalty for breaking that mortgage?
Like a prepayment penalty.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is with mine. Some banks definitely have it, some do not.
Yeah.
The ones that I mentioned with Volo and Second Street Mortgage here in Costa Rica, there is not a prepayment penalty, which is great because
Okay.
someone may just want to use them as a bridge, until they sell an
Yeah.
asset in the States or Canada. So it's
Right. No, that makes sense. So, what I guess trends have you noticed about pricing in Jaco in the areas that you're looking at
uh,
in Costa Rica? Are prices trending up? Are they, let's say, flat? Are they trending down? What are you seeing there?
I would say it's flat right now. I would say it's definitely a buyer's market. And from when I talk to other agents or listen to podcasts from other areas, it sounds like it's a buyer's market everywhere. I don't want to use that term like, someone can come in and absolutely get a, 50% reduction on a beachfront condo. It's not that way. So what's happening is prices are flatlining and products staying on the market a little bit longer.
Hmm.
You do see more people doing seller financing now because a lot of times they realize
Mm,
when times are tough and there's a lot of turmoil, someone may not have $400,000. So you're really not, you're not fishing a wide net. And then
right.
somebody comes along and says, I have 50% down. Can you do 3-year financing, amortize over 30 years? And that's usually works. So, I mean, there's other options
Right.
to get somebody into a house or a condo and keep it close to what the asking price is by doing the seller
Mm.
financing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if someone's trying to sell a property, how long on average would you say that property takes to sell? Is that a 6 month, a 1 year? How long is it taking some of these sellers to get out of the properties if they want
I
to?
think it's unique where you're at. I will say if it's like a standard condo on the beach or just off the beach, it could be about a year now. I feel
Okay.
pretty confident in saying that, unless it's just reduced to the point where it's a fire sale or,
Yeah.
it's so unique that it's nothing else like it, and then it's going to sell pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I would say even in the Toronto real estate market, it is a buyer's market, especially for condos. Not as much for houses, depending on where those houses are located,
Mhm.
but it's definitely a buyer's market for condos for sure. So I'm sure it's similar. Yes, you can do some negotiating, but you're not going to get like,
No.
huge amounts off the price. But
No.
of course, you can absolutely negotiate.
And I don't think people are desperate to sell here. I really don't. Even
Yeah.
if you are in a situation where you need to go back to Canada or the States, it's not like the property is costing you so much to upkeep. And
Yeah.
especially like a lot of people already own it free and clear. So I don't
Yeah.
get a lot of room on negotiations, but you can always try. I always say, let's
Yeah.
try it. See if we're on the same playing field first.
Yeah. I always say to, because it's interesting when you call up listing agents and, you put in the lower offer and, the seller decides they don't want to sign it back. And my view is always, you know what? Giving somebody a written offer, it's like handing them a dance card. It's just an invitation to sway
Yeah,
back and forth for a little bit
that's
until
a
you can
good
come up
call.
to an agreement to the right price. It's not insulting. Get your ego out of it. It's just an invitation to dance and sway back and
Yep.
forth.
Yep. No, and we do letter of intent, so we don't have to waste time on a contract if we don't think we're going to be close. And
Okay.
yeah, that's the best way to go. I have a lot of people say, "Can you just do a verbal?" I'm like, "No, I
No.
put something
Yeah.
physically in your hand." But no, the market I think overall is good this year. It's so interestingly tied to tourism that when tourism's up, real estate's up.
Right.
So it's been a good year thus far. I know we got
Great.
6 more
And what would
months.
you and so what would you say the price range would be for finding, let's say, a beachfront house or a condo? What's the difference in that pricing? How does it look?
There's not a whole lot of homes. If they are, a lot of times it's private equity or it's investors who come, sweep them up. So in Hako, where I'm at, I would say if you're on the water in like a beach villa, you're over $1 million for that house. If it's a 5 bedroom. Actually, they're building a new development on the beach. It's going to be a tower, but in front of the towers is going to be straight up step out of your private pool onto the beach, and those sold on a
Mhm.
pre-sale for 785, and that's a 5 bedroom
Wow.
villa. I would
Wow.
say for a condo with an ocean view directly on the ocean, you're talking probably anywhere from 300,000 on a pre-sale up to call it mid fours to 500. If you have 6 or 7 and you're coming down to buy a condo, you're going to buy a lot of condo. That'll get you pretty far. So those
Right.
prices, the pre-sales are selling. I mean, sometimes it's like, how can we have another project coming and then boom, there's only 4 or 5 remaining after 3 months. So
Right.
people are not afraid to jump into that pre-sale opportunity because their money is going to an escrow company that is hired by the buyer that directs where the monies goes. So it's almost like you're giving your money to a trusted source and say, do not release that until XYZ are met. So a lot of people are afraid of that because they think the money goes
Yeah.
to the developer runs, but it's way more protected now with the use of US based escrow companies.
That's great. Actually, it's funny because I was going to ask about that because, yeah, in Canada, if somebody buys a pre-construction, condo, the money does sit in trust and it doesn't get released to the developer until everything is done. So
Yeah,
that's actually great to hear that Costa Rica has a similar system because I know, for
exactly.
example, in Barbados, the money goes straight to the developer.
And if you drive around where we live, you can see abandoned buildings from 07, 08 where that same thing happened. The money dried up and the developer ran out of money or took the money and ran, and there's evidence of that. And there's one
Yeah.
really big one called Sonesta. It's like 3 or 4 towers, and it's just it has weeds growing out of it, and it's just abandoned. But it's right when you come into town, and everyone's like, they should take that down. I'm like, actually, it's a good reminder of what's here now, and real estate sometimes always isn't 100% bulletproof,
Yeah.
prime example. But no, the introduction of escrow, I think, is almost a direct result of the 07, 08 collapse.
Right. No, I think that's good. That's very safe. Anything else you think people should know about buying in Costa Rica?
It's an easy process. Same way you would buy in Canada, same way you would buy in the States. Where I'm at, it's only 5% of Costa Rica where you can get fully titled beachfront property 150 meters away from high tide. So that's really, really attractive to people who want that type of ownership.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a concession sale if you're that close to the ocean, where again, you own the rights to your house, but you're just leasing on a 20-year note the land from the government. So a
Mm.
lot of people don't like that, but 95% of the world, when you're that close to the ocean, is that way. The
Mm.
other thing I'll say with Costa Rica, and I think the number one thing I hear people like it is central, besides the beauty and the activities and everything, would be the central time zone, the ability to fly directly from
Oh,
Toronto, from Chicago, from Atlanta, from Houston, jump on their laptop. right when they're on the plane, right when they're here, and almost not miss a beat. So it's very easy for
Mm-hmm.
remote workers or people that can get away for 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks, but they still can kind of check in with their laptop. Fast
Yeah.
internet. The roads suck, but they're getting better. So it's about it. No, it's there's so much to do here, and it's a country the size of West Virginia with so many different microclimates. I mean, literally, there's something for everyone. So if
Right.
you haven't been, I'm not a travel agent, but I've helped so many people, help out with their vacation. I know the spots to go, where to avoid, what time of year to go. So if you have any listeners that want to get a hold of me, I know you have my contact information.
Perfect. It's funny. I have been to Costa Rica, but it's probably been like 20 years ago.
You
So I'm
need to come
probably
back.
due for another visit. But yeah, when I went, I think I stayed in San Jose.
Okay.
I flew into San Jose. I spent some time in the Osa Peninsula when I went,
Beautiful.
uh, close to the Corcovado rainforest. And I
Awesome.
remember going to like the Arenal volcano.
You
So
did it
those are some of
all.
the, yeah.
No, I always tell people go to the volcano first because,
Yeah.
that's something you'll never see. It's inland, but then you're an hour and a half away from the beach. So
Yeah.
go there for 2 nights and then go to the beach for the rest of the time and tour parks. And there's a rainforest, cloud forest, everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
It's all.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Travis. Great chatting with you today.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Good talking to you and have a great weekend.
Absolutely. That was Travis Comstock from Remax, Costa Rica. So you can get in touch with him and talk about real estate in Jaco, Costa Rica. Thanks for joining us, everybody.